bin gerade auf meinem Painting Run. Ich glaube, das ist auch ein Hoppers Nighthawks. Look through the window. Ich glaube schon, ich glaube, das ist auch ein Painting. Ja, scheinbar schon.
Edward Hopper is a special artist for a lot of us. I've always thought of him in a sort of aromatic way, because his
Noch nie gehört.
paintings evoke the same kind of feelings and memories in me that I get from the sense of smell, as if he was channeling directly into my limbic system, excavating moments that were stored deeply away. A stubborn realist throughout the many changing and often abstract currents of modern art in the early and mid-20th century, his canvases are clean, smooth, and almost too real. Not real like his contemporary Andrew Wyeth, for example, who strived for detail and photorealism, but pulled back by 1 degree into depictions slightly more generalized, slightly more detached from place, history, and person. In this way, there's just enough room to put your own life into Hopper's work. But once inside, it's impossible not to be closed in and see that life along his themes. Nearly all those themes are present in Nighthawks, unquestionably the artist's most famous work. Themes of loneliness, alienation, voyeurism, quiet contemplation, and more. The scene depicts 4 people in a New York City diner at night. It's meant to be somewhere in Greenwich Village where Hopper lived, but decades of exhaustive searching have concluded that it was never a real place. There is 1 waiter and 3 patrons whose relationships are all ambiguous. Seated so close together in an empty diner at night, it's likely that these 2 know each other somehow, but though their hands overlap, they don't touch, and their indifferent faces suggest that they could be strangers, if not just momentarily estranged. The main character of the piece seems to be the diner itself, an island of light in the outer darkness. Its diagonal lines are strong, accentuated by the counter and the stools. And we're seeing the diner at an odd angle, as if from the vantage of someone crossing the street. Its triangular corner juts into the frame like the prow of a boat. And this is no coincidence. Not only was Hopper obsessed with the imagery of boats, but he repeatedly situated his buildings at angles like this. And the point of that, I think, was to achieve an effect in which his subjects were both behind and in front of windows. Of course, windows are the place where the separation between outside and inside becomes complicated, and not because we can physically move through them, but because our sight does, because our gaze invades these private worlds. Indeed, in Hopper's work, the windows often appear as if they're not even there. As opposed to someone like Norman Rockwell, who had a talent for giving glass a texture, Hopper's windows vanish. They invite that voyeuristic look, knowing that houses, like people, can be penetrated with a gaze. Hopper was a very slow, very deliberate painter. He took months to finish a canvas and made several sketches and studies before embarking on the final piece. In these sketches for Nighthawks, we can see Hopper out on the street looking for the right back angle for this man, modifying to find the perfect effect. Here's his sketches of Josephine, his wife, who modeled for the woman in the painting. Here's her right hand holding a cigarette, which he eventually transplanted to her partner. Hopper wanted his devotion to each work to be mirrored by our appreciation. As slowly and deliberately as he painted, he wanted us to look, really look, and to be made vulnerable, as a viewer always is, whether he or she is crouching in the dark in the building opposite or simply crossing the street. There's no door to the diner in Nighthawks, no way in except by way of sight. That sight enters the fluorescent light of the establishment, passes through the 3 patrons in their ennui and loneliness, and exits into the dark, forbidding night behind them. You know, I wonder about that darkness. Hopper tried very hard to unmoor his work from the historical moment. He didn't want only to be judged in the context of his time and place. But it's worth noting that this painting was completed in the weeks and days following the bombing of Pearl Harbor, when everyone in New York City was paranoid about another attack. The city held blackout drills, a way to practice hiding the city in darkness if an aerial assault ever came. But Hopper didn't care. His studio lights stayed on. As his wife wrote in her diary, Ed refuses to take any interest in the very likely prospect of being bombed. This was the atmosphere in which Nighthawks was born. Did it have an influence on the painting? I don't know. The future was very uncertain at this moment in time, as uncertain as the darkness that frames the patrons of this diner, a darkness they're launched into by Hopper's composition and our gaze. The artist was obsessed with light, how it fell on houses, on people, through windows, the colors it made. Hopper seemed to disregard the chaos in the world around him, but is it a coincidence that, like his studio, the light of the Nighthawk's diner seems to be the last light still shining in the city? And for this reason, I think you can find a slightly more optimistic reading of this painting. What is there to do in the face of great disquiet and doubt but work and live on? All of Hopper's people seem to be huddled up against the present moment. Lonely, yes. Waiting, maybe a little bored. The people of Nighthawks are no different. But boredom is exactly when we feel time and being the most acutely. It can inspire a profound mood. Maybe that's what these people are feeling, alone together in their lighted ship, sailing against the darkness of all that was yet to come. The yellowish, greenish, fluorescent light in this scene, like the light in Hopper's studio, is a meager substitute for the brilliance of the sun. But it can, through giant windows, still illuminate the world. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Nighthawks is one of my favorite paintings ever, so that was just a lot of fun to make. So two big announcements.
Das war ein richtig süßes Ende einfach. Diese Videos reißen mich immer richtig rein. Ich lieb's.